Hi friends, welcome to Raising Lifelong Learners. I'm your host, Colleen Kessler, and this is the podcast where I encourage you to trust yourself and your differently wired kiddos as you help cultivate their curiosity, encourage them to discover the world around them, embrace who they are wired to be, all while helping them discover their passions, interests, and raise them to become the amazing adults they're meant to be. Hey, welcome back. This is episode 290. Today we're talking all about balancing structure and flexibility in your homeschool. Sometimes that can be really challenging with our neurodivergent kids because they thrive with structure in knowing what to expect and what's going to happen, but they also need a lot of flexibility so that they can follow their rabbit trails and develop their passions and their interests and hyper-focus at times when they need to. So how, as homeschooling parents, do we balance that need for structure and flexibility? We're going to talk about it today, along with some practical application things you can implement right away in your homeschool to help you with this balance between structure and flexibility in your homeschooling routines. Before we begin, I want to give a special thanks to CTC Math, who is always so generous in their sponsorship in keeping this podcast going, as well as Night Zookeeper. They have been amazing and just wonderful sponsors. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about CTC later in this episode. But before we begin, I want to tell you a little bit more about Night Zookeeper. So pop your earbuds in, get ready for this great episode, and we will get right on with it after this word about Night Zookeeper. Hey there, if you are looking for a fun and stress-free way to tackle language arts in your homeschool this year, let me tell you about something that could be a total game changer for your homeschool, Night Zookeeper. It's an award-winning online program that helps kids ages 6 to 12 build their writing, reading, and spelling skills. And the best part? They actually love it. Seriously, it's so engaging and interactive that your kids won't even realize they're learning. We used Night Zookeeper in our homeschool when my girls were younger, and they had a blast creating stories and characters. This fall, my youngest son is jumping in, and I'm especially excited because he's a bit of a reluctant writer. I love knowing he'll get gentle encouragement and even personalized feedback from real tutors, so I don't have to be the one hovering over to correct all his errors and help him become a better writer. He will have somebody else helping him. Here's why homeschoolers like me love Night Zookeeper. It's fun. Kids can play independently through thousands of games and activities for grades 1 through 6. It's comprehensive, covering reading, writing, spelling, grammar, and more. It's trackable. You get a parent dashboard to monitor progress and even assign custom tasks. It's personalized because the tutors inside Night Zookeeper give feedback on your child's writing, which is huge. And it's offline too. There are free monthly printables delivered right to your inbox. Oh, and better yet, there's a 7-day free trial, so your kids can dive into the magical world of Night Zookeeper risk-free. You can check it out at the link in the show notes or at nightzookeeper.com. And let me know what your kids create. I have a feeling they are going to love it. And I want to give a special thanks to Night Zookeeper for sponsoring the podcast. It's sponsors like that keep the podcast going. We appreciate their support and we want to show support in return. So if you're in the market for a new language arts program for your kids ages 6 through 12, you definitely need to check it out. Let them know that you heard about it on the Raising Lifelong Learners podcast, and let me know if you have any questions. I can't wait to hear how it goes for you. All right, are you ready? Let's get on with today's episode. Hey there. Okay, so today we're talking about balancing structure and flexibility in our homeschool. And it's something that we've talked about before, and it's something I've written about before. But sometimes for our neurodivergent kids, we need to balance walk the line between structure and flexibility and routine versus rhythm. And so we're going to talk about that as we're entering the new school year so that those of you who have kids who are very rigid thinkers know how to implement some flexibility in their day, but then also stick with the structure so they know what to expect and they feel comfortable with it. Parenting and homeschooling neurodivergent kids is not for the weak, and I've got you. We are going to do this together, and it's going to be good. Okay, I'm really glad you're here. I hope that you are ready to just breathe and be with me and know that you're not alone in this struggle as you get started on your homeschooling. Today, we're going to dive into that tricky part of homeschooling, especially for those of us who have kids who are gifted and twice exceptional. It's finding that balance, the right balance between structure and flexibility, because let's get real about this. For our kids, structure is comforting. Knowing what to expect is something that can help ease our kids' anxiety. And though sometimes when there's too much structure, they rebel against it, right? It can lead to meltdowns, it can lead to burnout, disconnection, but then the structure helps our kids who struggle with executive functioning skills or anxiety or transitions. How do we know what's too much, what's not enough? Because if we have too much flexibility, now we're leading our homeschools and our kids and our parenting into chaos, and we just want to find the sweet spot. Okay, so that's what we're going to explore today. What is the sweet spot between structure and flexibility? We're going to talk about the struggles. We're going to talk about the wins. We're going to have lots of practical strategies that you can take into your homeschool right away, whether you have already started or like me, you tend to start after Labor Day. We're going to kick this off together, and we're going to dig in and really hone in on what's going to work for us and how to adjust when things aren't working. Okay, so let's start with kind of the first thought, the first idea when it comes to structure versus flexibility. Structure feels safe, and though sometimes it can backfire on us. So how do we adjust to that? Structure helps our kids and our adults, us in the homeschool and in our lives, feel safe. Predictable routines, consistent expectations, and knowing what's coming next. It's gold for kids who struggle with anxiety or who are autistic, have ADHD, have sensory processing challenges, or just even intense emotions. And for our gifted and our twice exceptional kids, structure can be a double-edged sword. On one hand, it supports their executive functioning. It helps reduce decision fatigue. It gives their brains scaffolding to lean on. We talked a lot about scaffolding in the last episode. So you can go back and listen to episode 289 if you want to hear more about that scaffolding. But on the other hand, when structure becomes rigidity, we run into problems. These kids are divergent thinkers. They're creative, they're curious, they're often deeply passionate about something until they're not. They crave autonomy and they resent being boxed in. And maybe you've seen this in your own home, a color-coded schedule that looks great on paper but completely falls apart by day 3, or a curriculum that's supposed to be open and go but turns into a power struggle because your kiddo has zero interest in the topic. If that sounds familiar, you are not alone. And that's where burnout starts to creep in for you and your kiddo. So let's talk a little bit about this. It can be really comforting as a parent of neurodivergent kids, especially if you are a parent like me who has a lot of balls being juggled in the air at any given time. And this goes way back. So this year, I have a lot on my plate. And some of it I can talk about, some of it I'll talk about at a later time, and some of it I just can't talk about because they're not my stories. But suffice it to say, I have an adult child living at home, and he's making his way and forming great connections and networking and building a business. And it's phenomenal to have him home because he's such a help, let me tell you. I have another kid in her first year of college, which always comes with its own challenges when you're first learning how to be out on your own. I have a 16-year-old who's trying to figure out her place, and she's a sophomore in high school. And so we are also looking with an eye forward into what she wants to study and how we need to make sure that her transcript is ready for it. And then I've got a 7th grader who's really just starting to figure out who he is. And there's a lot of big personalities, a lot of changes. And then there's some other challenges outside the scope of academics that we're dealing with as a family. And so in my heart of hearts, I would just love to have everything on a color-coded calendar and in my planner so I knew exactly who needed what when. But the truth of the matter is there is so much up in the air this year that's just not going to be feasible. And so it's a struggle. It's a struggle for me, who needs to know what's coming next so I can make sure that I hit all the points and I'm being what everybody needs me to be. It's a struggle for my kids who always want to know what's going on next, what's happening next. But we also need to build in room for flexibility for appointments, for visits to the college, if we have to bring something there or go see a show or a recital or something like that. We have to have open room in our schedule for any new activities that come along. I am teaching a co-op class at a brand new to us co-op, and it's the first time I've taught a co-op class in person since before the pandemic. And while I have no problem teaching, it's still planning and making sure that I have all of the things I need well before, because one of the struggles that I would get myself into back when I taught at co-ops regularly was I would be up till 1 or 2 in the morning the night before getting all of my materials for my classes the next day set, because I was focused on what my kids needed on a day-to-day basis on all of the other days that I would forget until the day before to get everything ready. And I don't want that to happen this year. So how do we balance this need for structure so that we can dot all of our I's and cross all of our T's, and the need for flexibility for our kids who may be intensely interested in something right now, but might not be in a couple of days, or kids who have very specific needs and might need to have different doctor's appointments or therapy sessions thrown in, and we need to be able to deal with that as those things pop up. So let's just explore that. What do we do? The main thing that we need to do is we need to have structure with flexibility. Flexibility doesn't mean no structure. It doesn't mean unschooling unless that's your jam. Some of us are like phenomenal unschoolers. Some of us need to be like a little bit unschooly and a little bit this and a little bit that. I would often, especially as I've gotten like further and further into my homeschooling, describe my homeschooling as interest-led, unit study-based, eclectic, with a healthy dose of unschooling and passion-driven, strengths-focused education. Sometimes that means I'm using curriculum. Sometimes that means I'm creating my own. Sometimes that means I'm watching my kids explore and strewing opportunities in their path. And none of that's bad. None of that's better or worse than anything else. It just means that we're adjusting. And so flexibility doesn't mean you're winging it every day or you're completely and totally unschooling. There's structure that's allowed within there. And here's the thing. This is an aside, especially for newer homeschoolers who are listening. You don't have to ascribe to one specific style of anything. The best part about homeschooling is it frees you up to meet your kids where they are in all areas and move forward as needed and as they're able. And so if that means that in some areas you're allowing them to explore their interests, and in other areas you're noticing that there's a gap and you need to insert some specific structure, that's okay too. This coming year, we've got a little bit of a mishmash of stuff because I've got 2 homeschoolers at home, and each of them has very specific things that they want to learn about. There's also some very specific things that they know they're weak in and want to get better at. My high school daughter knows that she wants to study some biology. She wants to really dive deeply into entomology and some other biological sciences. She knows, though, that she's weaker in the area of writing and research. And so we're going to incorporate both some technical and essay kind of writing as well as some creative writing. So she's going to have a pretty writing heavy year, and the majority of her writing will be centered around her biology studies and her zoology studies, whereas my youngest really wants to accelerate in math and coding, and he wants to do some astronomy and meteorology. So it's going to be a little bit more technical, and I'm going to be relying for him especially on math curriculums, math supports, math supplements, online classes for coding, as well as some science kits from Home Science Tools. And you can find links in the show notes to this episode to a couple of the science kits that we're going to be using from Home Science Tools this year. He's going to be using a backyard astronomy set. My daughter is going to be using a backyard biology set. We're going to be doing some dissections, and we're going to be picking and choosing some of the other resources there. So I will link to all of that. But at the core, flexibility means responsive teaching, the ability to pivot based on your child's interests, needs, energy, and emotional regulation at any given moment. There are going to be days where my kids are all in and I'm all in, and we're doing a lot more than other days, and that's okay. It's building rhythms, not rigid routines. It's saying, here's the general flow of our day, but we have space to follow a rabbit trail if it lights us up. So maybe that means we get up, we ease into our day, we have breakfast, we have coffee or hot chocolate or tea or whatever. My 16-year-old's been very into making herself matcha every day, and she got a ceremonial matcha set for her birthday. And it's easing in and then doing some table work together, some things that we all enjoy and we all want to learn about, like art appreciation or music appreciation, or watch some current events on the news. And then we'll go into our individual stuff. I've already talked to my son, my 7th grader, about the idea that when he's doing some of his independent stuff like math and some of his writing, he's going to be doing it in my office quietly while I work on some of my stuff quietly. Because one of the things that we've found over the last year is he's gotten really adept at avoiding his work if my eyes aren't on him at all times. And this doesn't mean just schoolwork. This means chores. This means cleaning his own room. This means finishing what he started. This means putting his dishes in the dishwasher after he's made himself a snack. And one of the ways that we're going to work on that is scaffolding. And by scaffolding, I mean meeting him where he is and helping to give him the support. I know that if I said this is independent work time, I'm going to work on some of my work, each of you is going to work on some of your own work, and I left the room, he would wander, or he would sneak onto Roblox, or he would go outside, or he would just watch a show. And so by scaffolding the learning how to manage his own time, by having him manage his own subjects independently, but in the room where I'm managing my own things, it will give him the opportunity to build the habit of sitting there. So flexibility gives us a permission to adapt. I like to think of it as the scaffolding on the building, right? It's there to offer support. I use that term scaffolding all the time, but here's what I mean by it. It's there to offer support, but it's temporary and can be adjusted as the project continues to take shape. And once the project is complete or the skill is learned, it can be taken away and then re-erected somewhere else where there needs the support. And your homeschooling is always going to be changing shape. Your kiddo is going to continue to grow, continue to develop new passions, face new challenges, and you're going to grow too. Flexibility gives you that permission to adapt as you need to adapt. So let's talk now about some of the real life struggles that families face when they're trying to balance structure and flexibility, because there's a lot of them, especially when you're homeschooling neurodivergent kids. One of the first struggles is the all or nothing trap. You start the year with a detailed plan, it goes off the rails, and you either double down, hello, power struggle with the kids who just don't want you to double down on them, or you give up completely. Let's just forget about it. We'll just do what we want to do. The instinct to do either one of these is just so natural, right? I'm either going to fall back. This is one of, I think, my biggest failings. And when I look back on any of the times in our homeschooling past where we really struggled, it was when I doubled down and fell back on my public school teaching mentality. Like, this is what I am telling you to do as your teacher, and this is what you need to do. Almost always failed us, because it's not a teacher-parent or a teacher-child, teacher-student relationship. It's a parent-child relationship with the added responsibility of teaching them and helping them learn and facilitating their learning in a homeschooling setting. But it doesn't work if we're the didactic teacher telling them what to do and when to do it in a way that invites power struggles. That said, it also doesn't work to just abandon it completely, which I've also been known to do. If it gets too hard, or my own ADHD kicks in, or my own anxiety spikes, the instinct is to just walk away. And so we can't do this. So what we can try instead is to start with what my friend Pam likes to call, Pam Barnhill from Your Morning Basket likes to call the minimum viable day, or I like to call it my must-dos. What has to happen in a day in order for you to feel like you met your kids' needs at the most minimum amount so that you can call it a homeschool win? I have always called these our must-dos. And like I said, my friend Pam has always called it minimum viable day. They're both the same thing with just different words. But what it means in a nutshell is you need to, as the parent, as the homeschool instructor, you need to define for yourself what is the minimum you and your kids need to do in a single day of homeschooling to call your homeschooling a win for that day, no matter how hard it gets. For us, it's always been one math lesson, some reading of some sort, and some writing of some sort. So that could be writing a grocery list. That could be jotting down what you want to accomplish the next day. That could be a journal entry. That could be a diary entry. That could be a letter to somebody. That could be anything, or a formal writing assignment. And then read something. That could be something for an assignment. That could be a magazine article. That could be a web page. That could be a chapter in a book. That could be a page in a book. Whatever you need to do to get through the day, a little bit of reading, a little bit of writing, and then one math lesson. We use CTC Math. You've heard me talk about it on this show multiple times. CTC is the math program that we chose and we subscribe to and I pay for. They are also, and I'm so grateful for this, the biggest supporter of our podcast. They are a sponsor. It's the third year running that they've sponsored this podcast, made it possible to cover our production costs and get the episodes out to you. But I was a customer before they were ever a sponsor, and I've continued even through their sponsorship of this podcast to pay for my subscription because I love the short lessons that CTC offers. So one lesson can take my kids 7 to 10 minutes. And so our minimum viable day, or our must-dos, are a little bit of math, a little bit of reading, a little bit of writing. So if you define what your minimum viable day or your must-dos are, start there. Is it a little bit of math, a little bit of writing, a little bit of reading? Is it a read aloud? Is it a walk? Is it curling up on the couch and talking about something that piques your interests? Start there and build slowly. When we start our back to school time, we start slowly every year, even though we've been doing this for 16 years. We'll be starting the Tuesday after Labor Day, and our Tuesday after Labor Day will be a not back to school day. It will be going out for donuts, going to a playground or for a hike or something fun, coming back to our house, swimming, making dinner together, watching a movie together. No schoolwork, just hello, we are celebrating the fact that we are still here together and we don't have to go back to school. And then Wednesday, we'll start school. We will start with our minimum viable day, our must-dos. A little bit of reading, a little bit of math, a little bit of writing. And then we'll ease up. So my kids tend to do a couple math lessons a day. For various reasons, we take a lot of time off throughout the year as needed. So by doing more than one math lesson a day, they're able to take off more often if we need to. And then I'll introduce their little bit of writing, their little bit of reading, and one subject. And we'll do one subject for a handful of days till we get the hang of it. And then we'll add another, and then we'll add another, and we'll keep doing that slowly. Another thing that you can do if you're struggling and if you want help building the routine and the structure while still maintaining flexibility is you can help your kids, especially those who need routine but resist it. So some kids crave routine but will fight you tooth and nail when it's time to transition. So instead of fighting them, use visual schedules or time blocks. Let them help build the schedule. Use timers, music, or visual cues for transitions. And make space for reset breaks in case you just need to go for a walk or jump on the trampoline or do some somersaults or a dance break or something like that. Pam used to talk about having a specific song each year that she would play when it was time for the kids to transition from whatever they were doing independently in the morning before school to their morning time, which is what they started their day with and that anchored their day. I love that idea of identifying a song, and every time your kids heard that song, they needed to be in whatever the next part of your routine was by the time the song ended. Give them the structure and the flexibility to allow that. I color code my calendar in the kitchen. So my kids know that if they glance at the calendar and say Isaac's looking at it and there's something red on the calendar, that it's something he's going to have to be at that day. And so he needs to adjust his schedule and his routine accordingly so he finishes things before he has to leave. Another struggle that parents face is that guilt over not doing enough. Other families on Instagram or YouTube or TikTok or Facebook or wherever, or even co-op, and you wonder if your flexible homeschool is just lazy, or if you're not doing enough, or why they seem to be able to get so much more done than you. And it's hard. It's hard not to compare. We are inundated with so much information and so many visuals and so much of what other people may or may not be doing, just slamming us in the faces. The truth of the matter is, and I know you've heard this before, I've heard it before, I've said it before, and I still get caught up in it. What you are seeing anywhere, co-op, any of the social medias, any websites, any blogs, any podcasts, are highlight reels. You're only seeing what they want you to see for many reasons. I actually don't think, as someone who has worked in social media and online since the early days of blogging, I've been doing this since 2011, something like that. I don't intend to go out there and show you only the good stuff to make it seem like I'm only doing great. The truth is, I want to inspire you to help you know that you can do it. And while there are hard moments, there are also amazing moments. And nobody gets inspired by looking at the hard moments again and again, because that starts to feed the idea and the belief that you can't do it. It's the good moments that are inspiring. And so that's why you see those highlights out there. I'm also going to be real with you here, especially on the podcast and in the Learners Lab community, that it's not always sunshine and roses. My kids aren't always adjusting well to any given situation. My kids aren't always doing the things they need to do to get them to where they actually want to be. And that's okay, because we're all human beings and we as adults don't always make the right choices. Today, as I'm recording this podcast, I'm recording in the middle of the day. Should have recorded this yesterday. I slept in till noon. I turned off my alarm. I had to get up at 7 to make a phone call. I made my phone call. When my phone call was done, I turned off my alarm and I went back to sleep, and I slept until noon. Is that great? Heck no. I've got 2 kids at home who need to be doing something other than watching television, which is what they were doing when I finally dragged myself out of bed. And I'm still tired today. My allergies are killing me. My asthma has been bothering me all day, but I still have to make dinner. I still have to do the dishes. I still have to keep the laundry going and keep my kids motivated and record a podcast and do all of the things. And you don't see those days where I press snooze or turn off my alarm. You don't see that, because when I'm pressing snooze or turning off the alarm, I'm not online. And that wouldn't inspire you to go do the next right thing or do better. And that's my job. My job is to inspire you to know that, yeah, things are going to be hard. Raising neurodivergent kids is not for the weak. It's not easy. It's so valuable. It's so rewarding. It's so amazing. And you can do it. But you're going to have days where you want to press snooze and you sleep till noon. There's going to be days where the lesson plans fall flat and everybody wants to give up and you want to just put everybody back on the school bus. That's okay. So remind yourself that your child's needs are different. If they are learning, you're doing a good job. Are they engaged? Are they regulated most of the time or some of the time? That's enough for right now. You build from there. So try not to compare yourself. Try not to feel guilt. If you do, feel it, but move on and move forward. Another struggle that parents of neurodivergent kids face, especially when they're trying to incorporate structure and flexibility and balance that, is decision fatigue. You want to be flexible. Making choices every day is exhausting. So one of the things that you can do is you can use theme days or rotating subject blocks. You can limit choices. You can have a backup plan for days that just go sideways, like a go-to documentary or resource for documentaries, an audiobook, or an independent project box. It's so easy for us to look at people online who have a regular schedule or a regular structure and feel like we're failing because we just can't get there. But the truth is, sometimes we just need something different. There was a year that we did all of our math on Mondays, all of our science on Tuesdays, all of our history on Wednesdays, all of our writing on Thursdays, and all of our whatever else we needed to catch up on Fridays. And that worked for my kids at the time, because my kids were in a season of hyperfocus and perseveration, and they didn't want to stop doing something they were really into. That lasted like a semester, maybe a semester and a half, and then we went on to do different things. You can do a loop schedule where you work on something until your kids are ready to move on, and then you move on to another schedule or another subject, and then another subject, and then another subject, eventually looping back to the beginning subject that you started with, and you just pick up where you left off the next day. You could do the time blocks or the subject blocks, or you could just you could do your math, reading, and writing every single day or semester or whatever. And then you can have a whole semester or a whole quarter or a whole month or a whole 6 months where you're only doing science. And then another 6 months or semester or whatever that you're only doing history. You can change things up as your kids need and as you need to avoid the decision fatigue. So you're not making lesson plans every week. And this is easier said than done. I know that. These are just some practical ideas that you can try when you start to feel like you're failing at that whole structure and flexibility thing. Okay, so let's talk about math. Specifically, let's talk about finding a program that actually works for your unique homeschoolers. In our house, we've been using CTC Math for years, and even though I am so appreciative that they sponsor this podcast, I am a paying customer. I'm still a paying customer even with their sponsorship because it's just that good, and I love supporting great companies with great programs. With 2 kids still at home, both with very different learning needs, CTC Math has been the flexible and dependable solution that I keep coming back to. One of my kiddos needs more time to process math concepts, and I love that she can move through the lessons at her own pace without feeling rushed or behind. My other kiddo, he flies. He jumps straight to the end of unit tests to see what he already knows, and then we only focus on the lessons that fill the gaps. That kind of customization is gold when you're homeschooling gifted or twice exceptional kids. CTC Math gives you the access to every grade level, from kindergarten through 12th grade with your subscription, so that your child can accelerate, review, or jump around based on their own needs, not based on some rigid curriculum structure. And because it's video-based with clear instruction and auto-graded lessons and quizzes, it frees me up to support my kids without being chained to a textbook, teacher's manual, or whiteboard. So whether your child needs more time or is racing ahead, you can tailor it all with CTC Math. Check it out at ctcmath.com. You will see why so many homeschool families trust it. And if you've got quirky math learners like I do, I think you're going to love it. If you have any questions about CTC, like I said, we've been using it for years in our homeschool, and I encourage you to reach out and ask me any questions that you have. If you do pop over there, let them know that I sent you, and let them know that you appreciate their ongoing support of homeschoolers everywhere, especially those of you here at Raising Lifelong Learners. All right, let's get back to today's episode. Okay, so what are some other practical strategies that actually work and things you can try right now if you're already homeschooling, or you can put in your back pocket for when you start after Labor Day or whenever? This is the good stuff, the practical tools that you can just go to when you need them. One of the things you can do is create anchors, not schedules. So think about anchoring your day, maybe around meals, around read aloud times, or walks instead of timed blocks. It's more forgiving and still gives you a rhythm. It's like what I was talking about earlier with my friend Pam, who is like the queen of morning time. Her kids would get up, they would make their own breakfast, they would ease into their day, and then she would play that music that would get them to the table for morning time. Morning time was their anchor. Once they started with morning time, they knew that from that point on, they were going to work through their school schedule and their school routine. For some people, it's a physical anchor. I had a friend who, when her kids were younger, in a former house that she was in, had a room that was totally transitioned into a schoolroom. Each kid had a desk, and they knew that after breakfast, cleaning up their breakfast dishes, they went to their desk. And from that point on, they would work on their work at their desk. So their anchor was physical, and that worked for this particular family. It may be that you have breakfast and you do your together work after breakfast before lunch, then you have lunch, and then there's some independent time, and then you gather together for a quick cleaning session, and then you're on to independent or fun activities for the rest of the day. So anchors, not schedules. Another practical application idea that you can use right now is you can use a visual planner for kids. This can be anything. So you could try a simple whiteboard or a printable checklist with visuals. Give them ownership. Let them move magnets or check boxes as they go. One of the things that we've done for the past couple of years is, for the main things that my kids do, I create just a half sheet of cardstock that has a little image of them, like a little doodle, and then their must-dos for the day. And on that checklist, I include reading, math, writing, then science or history. I just write the box, like not their actual assignments, just the subjects. I also write, do something nice so on Logan's, I'll write, do something nice for Isaac, or whoever else is at home. So like last year, it would say, do something nice for Isaac, Molly, and Trevor. And Isaac's would say, do something nice for Logan, Molly, and Trevor. And then I would also write something like take the dogs out. Logan's always responsible for feeding all of the animals, so feed the animals would be there. Water the plants. Isaac is always responsible for emptying the dishwasher, making his bed, brushing his teeth. He was working on hygiene skills last year. So those things were on the checklist, and I laminated that, and then they had wet erase markers that they could check it off with. So you could do something that's physical like that, and I posted those. I just taped them to the wall, so it was right there in our dining room, which is our schoolroom, project room, reptile, and insect room right now, which is a whole nother story. We have a bearded dragon. We have all of its feeder insects and a tank of blue death-feigning beetles, which was my daughter's 16th birthday present. Go figure. So you can do that. You can have a whiteboard. We have a whiteboard in that room too. So sometimes in a pinch or when we need something specific done, I'll write down the things on the whiteboard and they can erase them when they finish. Whatever it is, make it visual. Another thing that you can do is build in free choice and downtime. Our kids need a lot of decompression time. It's not a sign of laziness. It's a strategy for regulation. So you can build it into your day. I know I need regulation time. Every day at the end of the day, I sit in my office on my cozy chair under my twinkle lights, and I either listen to an audiobook, I scroll social media, I read a book, or I just really sit there. So build in some of that choice time or downtime for your kids. Another thing that you can do is embrace interest-led learning within a framework, perhaps. Let your child's current obsession drive your science or your history or your language arts content for a while. Tie it into learning goals and watch their motivation improve or even explode. Give them an opportunity to explore things that seem interesting to them because, again, they'll be more motivated to do what you want them to do, but they'll also learn a lot and you can integrate other subjects into it so it becomes more motivating for all of you. One of the things that I'm working on right now to release to all of you listening, because it's been asked of me again and again, is a group coaching kind of session, format, cohort, where I meet with your kids virtually on a weekly or twice weekly, depending on how it shakes down, basis to talk about some of those interests and passions and how they can formulate them into some kind of independent project or how they can integrate other subjects into it. So obviously this would be older kids like middle school to high school. And then have a place where they can check in with me just via a small forum or chat group and check in with each other, whoever is also a part of their little cohort. And then at the end, share some of the things that they've learned about it. So while I wouldn't be teaching them any like new subjects, I could be a facilitator because it's one of the things that I've heard again and again from parents with whom I've worked is that they struggle with that facilitation piece because it's easier to get a curriculum and allow them to just do the curriculum. And it feels a little too kind of loosey-goosey, and then they feel like they're failing their kid because there's no structure involved. So this would be a way that I could help facilitate the structure of that independent learning kind of project. And it would be something that we would all commit to for a 12-week period or 10-week period and meet individually but together kind of thing. So anyway, that's something that I'm working on because this embracing interest-led and strength-based learning often lacks that framework and that follow through. And so because it keeps coming up in coaching sessions and in the Learner's Lab and in other people who are reaching out to me through social media, it's something that I'm currently working on potentially offering. So that said, if that's something that sounds interesting to you, please just shoot me an email to support@raisinglifelonglearners.com or send a message through the contact form to let me know it is something that you're interested in because, again, I have other projects in the works. And so this, giving me feedback helps me figure out like which to devote the time and attention to first. But that's something that you can do. And if you're good at that, if you're good at facilitating learning instead of organizing the learning, embracing interest and strength-led projects and learning could be something that could really help your kids with that balance between structure and flexibility. Okay, another strategy that you can implement right away is supporting executive function development, using routines to teach planning, time management, and follow through, but do that gently and scaffold. A lot of our kids need support with this. Be gentle with what your kids need help with. Use visual reminders, lists, break tasks into steps So you're modeling for them how to do that and just support them. There are lots of resources on my site about executive function support. I'm also working on a course for parents and a course for teens on that. And then my friend Sarah is working on a course for teens. So Sarah Collins from Homeschool OT, if you don't follow her, she's been on the podcast a lot, and she's working on some resources for that as well. So you can watch for mine. They will be out probably a little bit later than Sarah's because her first course is almost done. So make sure that you're following her. I'll link to her site in the show notes. And then finally, another practical application you could just put into place right now is a Flex Friday, or another day that works better for you. Leave Fridays or another day open for like creative projects, field trips, catch-up work, or just rest. It helps keep the burnout at bay. Another friend of mine, Dawn Garrett from Lady Dusk, she's Lady Dusk on Instagram. She did like a several weeks on, a couple weeks off routine. I forget how many days it was. It might have been 6 weeks on, 2 weeks off, or something like that. Structure to her homeschool for her whole life. Her kids are just all graduated, or the last one might be graduating this year, though I really think her last one graduated. But the reset week or weeks was really truly that. They did batch cooking, so they had like muffins and quick go-to breakfasts in the freezer and easy meals for the busier days. They read for pleasure. They did passion projects and interests. They went on field trips and walks. And then they would spend 6 weeks like really hardcore into their schoolwork. And so you could try a flexible week, a flexible day every week, or whatever it takes for you to give yourself opportunities to unwind, to be creative, to go on field trips, to catch up on things, or to just rest. All of us need rest, which is why, even though I told you that I started my day by finishing my phone call and going back to sleep, I don't really feel guilty about it. Sometimes we just need to rest. And I am in a place right now where I need emotional, physical, and mental rest. And so when my body tells me that I need it, I'm taking it. It might mean I'm slower to get some things done, but I'm going to need to do that for right now. Okay, finally, I want you to remember that balancing structure and flexibility isn't a formula. It's an art. And it's going to look different for every family, every child, and in every season of your life, which there goes that flexibility again, right? You're going to need to adjust year by year, sometimes month by month. Some days will feel messy. That's okay. Messy isn't failure, it's feedback. It's helping you see what works and what doesn't, and it's just life. You're learning from your child, they're learning from you. You're building a homeschool that fits your family, not some ideal from a curriculum catalog or an Instagram feed. The work that you're doing, tuning into your child, making space for their needs, adjusting as you go, that's exactly what they need from you, and why you're the perfect parent for them. Because you're willing and able to do that. You are the expert on your child, and your homeschool gets to reflect that. Give yourself grace, celebrate the small wins, and know that structure and flexibility are both tools in your toolbox. You get to decide how and when to use each of them. If you need more support, there are links to a bunch of resources on the show notes for this episode over at raisinglifelonglearners.com/podcast. And you can join us in the Learners Lab anytime. You can join monthly, so you can cancel at any time. You can save a little money joining annually. I am still working on getting us to be approved for use of charter funds. Like I said in last week's episode, it's a much more complex and involved process than I expected it to be. There are several different business kind of hoops I need to jump through, as well as the actual applying to all the individual places. So please keep the emails coming. I've seen your emails. I haven't responded to many of them because it's just been a tough week with getting kids to college and stuff, but I do see them. If you belong to a charter school or you use ESA or charter funds and you want to be able to use them on the Learners Lab, shoot us a message at support@raisinglifelonglearners.com, because when I get the businessy things out of the way that aren't in place right now, and I'm ready to start applying to the individual places because all of my ducks are in a row, I will focus first on the resources that you guys have requested, the charters, the ESAs, all of the things and places and organizations that you have sent in wanting to see the Learners Lab approved for first. So know that I'm not sitting on it. It's just going to take a little bit of time, and it may not be right away, but I promise you, I am working on it. And then let me know what you think about, or if you are one that would benefit, or your kid is one that would benefit from those small group cohorts, because those will also be able to utilize charter funds once I get approved, and putting those resources into place as we can. So I'll be back next week, same time, same place, with another great episode, and I hope you have a great week. Enjoy your kids, enjoy your homeschooling, and take it easy. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.